Today I have Durga Magnetta. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes.
Magnetta? Magnetta, great. On the program. In the year 2000, Durga was trained to develop her intuition studying under Sandy Anastasi, an internationally renowned psychic channel who has also trained John Edward from hit television show Crossing Over. That same year, Durga started work as an intuitive reader and medium, building a worldwide clientele. Then perceptive liberation and emotional freedom became her next dedicated area of study over the next 2 years. She became certified in Level II Amrit Yoga, finishing several courses of advanced studies. Durga is a Reiki master teacher, and she has also studied with the Astrological Institute of Integrated Studies. And I met Durga when I went into the chakra. Actually, my girlfriend went into the Chakra Shack. It's a little shack here in Southern California. It's not a shack, it's a beautiful store. And Durga was available to give her a reading, and she just came home and couldn't stop talking about it. So, of course, I had to go down and see her at Durga too, and it was amazing. So, I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Marla.
Yes. So let's talk about how you started on this spiritual path.
Well, see, I love talking about this because I want to give people hope that a spiritual path can show up in anybody's life really at any time, and the gifts that go along with it as well. So I was about 22 and I was going through like a tower card moment where you kind of lose everything and you're going through it, and I didn't have external things to focus on. So it forced me to go inside, but it also forced me to, what else is there? I was probably agnostic at that time in my life, where I had a little taste of spirituality. I knew there was something else, but I didn't really care. And this really changed that. And for whatever reason, all of my gifts, I became sensitive and had aware of a set of senses that we all have, but mine was so different. It was a whole different life experience, just hearing and feeling and knowing and seeing in a way that I had never seen before, times, quite a bit. And I had to learn to get used to it. I had to, that is why I sought training. And then it just kind of organically happened that I got my first job doing readings where I was just channeling for the first 7 years. And then, I started using the tarot just because the cards can offer a little more information sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's just how that started. It found me. I have an art background, fine art background, and graphic design, photo retouching. So I was kind of like a normal person, if there was such a thing.
Yes.
So I want to give people hope because I keep seeing that people are coming into their gifts, where we are getting more sensitive. So it can happen to anybody.
Right. How did you grow up? Were you in a religious family at all?
It's so neat how my dad was raised Jewish. He's 100%, even DNA in the DNA is 100% Jewish. And then he married excuse me, my stepmom, who was raised Catholic, and religion wasn't their path. So they found a long time ago a man who came from India with the message, what you're looking for is within you, and his name is Prem Rawat, and he actually lives in Malibu. But here my parents I was in the Northeast, and they met on a plane, and they met through this man's teachings, where this man teaches you to find the divinity inside and rest in it daily. So no religion, but we did Hanukkah and Christmas, and my parents had a guru.
That's beautiful. And when he said that, rest in it daily, I assume that was a meditative practice, or were there certain rituals or
it wasn't ritualistic. It was very they teach you, it's called knowledge. You receive knowledge after a certain amount of time, and it was accused of being cultish and all that stuff, but it was really beautiful. I went to a
Yeah.
lot of the programs and he really just spoke beautiful truth,
Right.
and I
Right.
enjoyed it, but that wasn't my path to the divine. I didn't stay on it, and it was fate that I ended up on the path I was on, and I fell in love with the Eastern and yogic science, Eastern. I'm not really religious, but
Yes, yes. So you said that the first 7 years you were just channeling. I like the way you said that so nonchalantly. When you say channeling, what you mean by that is you're getting downloads and you're helping people psychically, and also using being a medium to connecting with the afterlife. So it's different from trance, right? It's more just not just, but
oh, so trance mediumship is when somebody kind of allows their body to be used as
right.
a vehicle for spirit. That is not what I do. I was always taught that that wasn't real good for our nervous systems.
Mhm.
Like, so I didn't. That wasn't my path. So yes, a channel is knowing. It's a knowing that downloads itself through the crown of your head. So when I'm channeling for a person in a session, I'm explaining things, but I'm actually turning the feelings into words. So I have to translate it. It isn't English words. It's more of a pictures and knowing and feelings.
Yeah. How do you get into that state? Like when someone comes in and let's say they want a little bit of a psychic reading and a mediumship reading, do is it pretty easy just for you to take a few deep breaths and connect?
Well, I've been doing this for 23 years, and you know what? My subconscious, my psyche are so trained to drop into that state quickly,
Right.
but it's not hard to do. It's about being being receptive and allowing information to come through your physical senses without it. So without needing to control it or
Mhm.
think, or it's energy coming in and just being learning to feel it and translate it.
Yes. And what I hear you saying is that everyone can do this. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Everybody
what
is doing it.
yes, yes. So what would you suggest to someone though who, is in that mind loop and always going kind of crazy and trying to slow down, and what to when they first begin, just really wanting some of those downloads. That's the term I'll use because that's how I feel. That's
Mhm.
what I receive. How would you suggest people begin that path?
Well, what they're probably coming to it's hard for us to come to the conclusion that thinking and worrying and stressing, like somehow it's this dangling carrot that we're always chasing, that it's always going to lead us to some solution, and it's going to, like, the ego mind is just the ego mind trying to control us, because that has never solved a problem, never once solved one single problem. And it's about us being willing to let go of that false sense of control that the ego
Mhm.
offers, and to get back in the body. And so most people are traumatized to a degree because life in its nature is traumatizing. So then we feel like it's not safe to be in the moment, or it's not safe to be
Right.
in our bodies. So we avoid being in our bodies. But it's actually what we need to do to start being open to the truth and the
Mm.
information that we're really seeking, so that we can heal and feel better in our hearts about our lives and understand why we're going through the things that we're going through.
And it's so important to trust that, just trust that
It's imperative.
information and that
Yes.
feeling. I was just telling my son who's getting ready to go off to do a Europe, adventure, that just listen to his heart, when things come up, just spend a little bit of time alone and listen to his intuition and his heart. And
Mhm.
and yeah, yeah, it felt he listened carefully. So, Durga, what I know you do energy work, and
Mhm.
what kind of energy work do you do, or does that go along with this? Well, I know it all goes together, but what does that mean for you?
Well, it is actually kind of two different things. Actually,
Okay.
you and I haven't done that, but your lovely friend I work with. That's all we do. And
Are you
they,
still working with her?
oh yeah, she's doing some it's amazing.
I know
Her
she is. I talk to her almost every day, but go
and
ahead.
it's her amazingness, but I'm so happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah, yeah.
And to think that I could help somebody do that. It's just what I live for.
Mhm.
So energy work, what I was trained through my life and my struggles is that unresolved trauma forms little energetic density balls in different parts of the body, and it stops the natural flow of prana, and it stops how I explain it to the clients is it's like a little sad, it's a skipping record of a very sad story that's always playing in the background.
Oh,
Where it's like,
right.
well, that feeling like I know I'm okay, but I don't know, something's not right. Something's not right.
Yes.
And that's how you have trauma that needs to be healed. So one of the gifts I have in the modality that I've been working almost 2 decades on cultivating and recognizing is my ability. It's an empathic healing. So as an empath, and for people who your audience and people who can feel other people's feelings, they understand this. But what I do is I use it to reflect the other person's energy body. I'm not in their space, I'm just reflecting them because we're all connected. And when I do that, I feel the heaviness, I go down, and it's like being a soul whisperer where I can speak to that level of consciousness, find the lie that's causing this person to be sick or depressed or anxious, and remove it through words, through affirmations, through I talk to it really, and it wants to be heard. It's just, I just want to be heard, and you give it that, and it leaves, because your system wants to heal itself. We just don't let it. We just try and stuff the hurt with addiction, or think anything can be an addiction these days, really. And we don't want to be with the stillness because we don't want to feel that. But in the stillness, it's saying, hey, I have stuff I need, I want to let this go. And so we need to embrace the discomfort and knowing that you can actually heal disease on a cellular level so that it's no longer a problem. It actually can be cured.
And you don't only mean physical disease, but you mean some mental health issues too.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
so just as a disclaimer, there are many people who, if they healed their trauma, they would no longer carry the diagnosis of anxiety and depression. And that's usually the people where they're medicated and it's not really doing a whole lot for them. And then there's the people where it's their evolutionary path to experience mental illness and to learn to love themselves through it, or whatever the path is for them. So like, I'm working with somebody now where I'm not trying to say, I'm going to come in here and we're going to take all these diagnoses off of you. I'm just going to say, how close can we get to happiness for you? How much better can you feel if you're not carrying trauma? And just accepting that some people might have the label of a diagnosis, but at least they're feeling as well as they can.
Right.
Without those energies.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So you talk about the important role of integrity and generosity in the ascension process. It's so interesting this word comes up because I'm reading a lot of books right now that seem to be talking about ascension. What is the ascension process?
So I'm actually really glad that we're talking about this. And I looked, when I was looking at the info that you had, this is something that was brought to my attention about 20 years ago. When I started, you start seeing the 1111 every time you look at the clock, or the 111 or the 222 or the 444, whatever it is for you. And I was like, this is driving me nuts. What is this? And then I was working at a metaphysical store and she handed me a book and it was said 1111. And it was by a lady named Solara, who was in the world to help the ascension process. So I'll get into we are leaving a platform of learning as human beings. We're coming into a fifth dimensional space, like the song that they were a little ahead of their time, the Age of Aquarius song.
Yes.
That's exactly what that was. The golden age, as it's referred to in the Bible, the second
Right.
coming, is actually Christ consciousness. So essentially, we're letting go of false selves and lies and trying to show up as differently because we don't feel adequate on the inside. It's all who we are not is being challenged right now to go away, so that who we are in our absolute divine truth is with us in our bodies. And so we're going to be incredibly intuitive. We're going to be just calm and heart centered and loving effortlessly. We won't have to fight with our moods. We won't have to, I got to think positive. I got to think positive. I got to, what
Right.
am I manifesting right now? It's more like it's all right there for you. And so we are ascending into the fifth dimension, where it's what my guides are telling me is it's heaven wants to be here with us.
Right. Right.
And that is why it is like hell on earth right now, because all of the problems that have just been hidden, or, we stick our head in the sand, or we're not addressing things, it's all coming up at once to be, bring the light of consciousness to it. So there's resolution and a new way of being.
Interesting. So with what is going on in the world today, climate change, the war right now in the Ukraine, the pandemic, just so much, so much. Do you feel that once again, all these things are coming together to get us to a point of every more people recognizing that we're interconnected and we're one and we need to love and help? And do you hear from your guides that there's going to be even more loss of lives as we go through this ascension process?
Well, let's talk about that. Um, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm always going to just give it to you straight. My gifts have never been one to bear me, to tell me of disasters coming. There's some
Yes.
people that's a little more of a like a survival lower chakra. Like a lot of people have those. I've never had those, and I don't believe that they're helpful. And I would just, what you were just upset about something that we have no control over.
Yes.
So my gifts have just never showed up like that. I did have an uneasy feeling around the turn of the year. I wasn't real excited about this new year, just in my bones. And I watched a video by Teal Swan with the predictions for this year. And some of the stuff she said was already starting to happen. When I get into that worried space, my guides know it. And they say, don't worry about the world. Because what I know is that we're only here temporarily, and that we're all going back to this beautiful place. And yeah, I mean, I it's not for us to be immersed and involved in what other people's paths right now. We help when we can. I'm not saying to pretend it's not happening. I'm
Right.
saying that the more that we are in a space of love and higher consciousness, we're helping everybody raise up. And when everybody's raising up, we will not see fit for these atrocities will not have a place in life as we raise up in our consciousness.
Yes.
So
I go ahead.
no, that's all.
Um, do you agree that your people your age and millennials coming in, or new, new little ones even coming in, that it seems that they're so much more sensitive, empathetic,
Mm.
and that's part of helping this ascension process?
Yes. Well, yeah, absolutely. One of the predictions this year is that the babies born this year are going to be crazy talented, crazy, like supernaturally talented, and they're not going to put up with any nonsense. Like if somebody's living in a lie, we just learned to lie to ourselves, and we learned to, and that was the old way of being. And they're going to
Right.
call us out, and they're going to push our buttons, and in ways that we need the buttons to be pushed so we can wake up. And oh yes, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. What was I doing?
Right, right. Yeah, it just seems like there's more and more of that, and it's not without its problems and the hardships on, once again on the younger generation, but so important.
Um, These are souls coming in with this mission, and the struggles will only lead to victory. The hardships will only, it's just part of the process to getting where we're going.
Right.
I always try and see it that way, because there's just too many reasons to be victimized in the world, and we can't be in that space, especially right now, or just it'll swallow us whole.
Mm-hmm.
So empowerment, and try and see, how is this propelling me forward? How are these challenges helping the world? Try and looking it through that lens where it's all working for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Have you been told anything about, it's just so amazing how there's tens of millions people talking about near death experiences now, and shared death experiences, and past lives, and all the research and science getting involved, some of the scientists. Is this part of also the ascension process, that this is all coming to fruition?
Yeah, so basically, so the Aquarian age is coming, but we're still finishing up the Piscean age, and the Piscean age means that either God could be real or not real, or we're somewhere in between. So God's remained ambiguous, like a mystery. So my thing has always been, we can believe and have whatever experience we want to believe. If we want to live a life where there is no God and we just die, or if you want to live where faith is everything to you, everybody's invited to have whatever experience they want to have. But my feeling is, it's going to be undeniably true that there's more than what we see, and that there's life beyond the physical. And yes, I absolutely think that that's part of it. So I've been hooked on celebrity ghost stories on my Discovery Plus, and it's just all the people you would never think would, like half of the cast of The Sopranos have all had ghost stories, and I was like, wow,
Yes.
we have connection. We can have a conversation where I would have judged and said they have no idea what it's like, and they would probably laugh at me and tell me I'm crazy.
Right,
Now we're
right.
all in the same boat.
Well, it was interesting the other night. I've interviewed and met quite a few people who've done, actually a lot of people who've had near death experiences. But I was with an old friend, um, this kind of this macho guy, and
Yeah.
old friend that I went to college with, and we went out to dinner, and I'm getting goosebumps. So just out of the blue, he had had this medical emergency. He just starts telling me about this experience, and he breaks down into tears. And he said, I've never told anybody about this before. And I was just, it was such a gift to me, because it's always different, right? When you see, someone and you know them so well, and a gift to him, for him to be able just to get it out, to voice it. And like you said, it's so, people need to realize a lot, many more than not, are having these experiences and always have, but people are talking about them now. So that's really
I
interesting.
love it. I love it. And I can't wait for us all to come together in that way, because of the work that I do, and this is my stuff, this is something I need to work on. I always felt kind of alone and isolated, and that I've had people judge what I do, and I'm the devil's work and all that stuff. And not a lot. It's mostly embraced, but I've always felt like my work has kept me outside of things, and that is just something
Mm,
that I'm working on. But I can't wait for it to be more, hey, we're all doing the same thing.
yeah. You know what, Durga? I feel exactly the same way. And I think that there's a reason for that, that we are a little bit on the outside, because that's what we were supposed to be. That's where we're supposed to be, to really help people to be a light. Because I think that, well, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, I certainly understand. So let's talk about overcoming. We've talked about this a little bit, but the battle between your heart and your head, and segueing to children a little bit, and how we can help children also, even though they do really live from their heart, but
That's
as they
great.
get older, to keep that, to keep that.
Yes. Well, that's funny, because that was another thing. I was like, children don't have the problem like we do, because we're taught to reprogram that. And like I said, it's really essentially we're learning to lie to ourselves to fit in and to do
Right.
the societal right thing and to not be honest, because that might hurt somebody's feelings. And then we turn into codependence and whatever. But I do think
Right.
that there'll be a change in that. So basically, it's how information makes you feel is your heart or your head. And if it's negative or urgent, or it just makes you feel bad about yourself, that is a lie. And like, how does that feel in your heart? And what I do is, if somebody said, what does your heart tell you about that? There is actually a thinking center in here that if you drop down and say, how do I feel about that? I feel that, and then that's your intuition, whatever the rest of that sentence would be. I feel that it's not quite time, or I feel that it might not be the right fit. It's a gentle feeling that is not based in judgment. The only time it is urgent is if you're in a life-threatening situation, which I did once have, where I just heard spirit say run, and I ran. But it's never going to feel bad, like the way it really bad, like the way it does. That means that it's egoic nonsense that is not true.
Yes. I love that. And we can learn so much from our children just listening to them, right? And wow. So let's talk about pets and
Yeah.
the purpose of pets. That sounds so ridiculous. That's probably the worst question I've ever asked. That how pets, how they, I assume that you have pets because I wrote this question down, so I must have heard it in an interview or something. But just elaborate on your relationship and the beauty of what our pets can provide for us.
Well, I think it is. I mean, it's silly to anybody who has a pet, because it's so obvious what their purpose is. It's so obvious
Right,
that
right.
they are little gifts, and sometimes the challenges are difficult. So that was a podcast I had done where I knew my dog was meant to be with me, because it was the only person who called me back, and I knew I was getting a dog, and it just was real fluid that this little puppy came into my life about 7 years ago. And she helped me to be more, I was in a lot of pain at the time, and I was in a healing crisis that lasted for a long time. And she helped me to focus on love, to focus on selflessness,
Yes.
to laugh. She's also, it's funny because her character is, she has this strong need to be dominant and controlling, where I've always attracted people who want to be controlling. I tended to be passive and not as much in my power. And so she's a little lesson in that way, where I'm having to be the leader and carry a strong leading energy, where I've never done that in my life. And my dog requires it, or she's going to think she's boss, and she's full of terror. It's a little dog problems that that
Yes.
it's a condition called small dog aggression syndrome. That's a real thing. She's not hugely aggressive, but she could be if I'm not doing my due diligence and standing in my power and being a leader and a boss. So they knew I needed that. So I get the puppy who requires that of me.
Yeah.
She wants to run the show. So
I love that. So Durga, what do you do for your daily um, rituals or nourishment?
self-care, I find one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves, and this may or may not be considered off topic, is dietary, just really eating clean is
Right.
huge for everything. I work with intention on a daily basis. So that just means in the morning, it's intending, I'm aware of the things that I have to do, and I can have an intention about how my experience, I can guide. We can't control our lives through readings or intention. I'm not trying to paint that picture, but I say I honor my lessons, but I would like to have this experience with them, or I would like, and I kind of just clear my head every morning and every day. At night, it's all the things that are weighing on me. I go through the crown of my head and I say, I'm not sure what to do with this. I give it to you. Thank you. I'm not sure what to do with this. I give it to you. Thank you. And it is true. The gratitude practice, I don't mean to sound like that, but there's a reason why everybody's talking about it, is completely
Right.
shifts your perspective. I also do something called yoga nidra, because as you may or may not have the experience, a lot of people have a hard time sitting and meditating. This is something where you lie down and you're guided to stay mentally awake and alert while your body falls asleep. And you set these very powerful intentions all the way to the back of your psyche. So it's hugely transformative. I have agreed to be conscious, make conscious decisions, and just be self-aware and take care of myself. And all those little things turn into big progress.
Right, right. When you at night, or not at night, yeah, at night, I guess, when you do that, like, I'm just going to give it to the divine, I will say, I don't know what to do with this. Then when you wake up in the morning, is it given back to you? Or you feel differently about it? Or,
Well, this is something I've been practicing for a long time, but I have to tell you that with the ascension, there's little bits of ascension, like I'm getting, the ascension for me is starting to be more real. And one
yes.
of the ways it's being more real is every time I give it to God, it works itself out, like day and night. It'll change. I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And sometimes I'll be just, I had a problem with my pharmacy, and the guy was accusing me of lying essentially. And I was like, what am I going to do? They didn't give me enough of a prescription. And it really got under my skin in a way that I don't like allowing things to do. And I said, I don't know what to do with this. They didn't give me enough. And then something said, call him. I get the same guy on the phone, and he apologizes up and down
Oh my God.
and sends me the stuff that he should have sent me in the first place.
Oh,
It
wow.
was like, I thought I had this battle ahead of me, and it was just like, no, you're right. And we'll help you. It's just giving it up works more and more and
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Well, you trust, once again, just
Trust
trusting.
is so imperative right now, because we don't have the adrenals to serve. Our adrenals won't survive if we don't. Like, we're going to
Right.
end up sick, and burnt out if we
Yeah,
don't. We have to trust right now.
definitely. Well, Durga, we need to wrap it up, but is there anything you would like to, some words of wisdom, or, I mean, we could talk about this kind of stuff forever, but anything you'd like to share?
I think it's just so important that whether you think, people are just, what the word they're saying is, everybody right now feels that their life is in transition. They know that things are changing. They feel like I should be doing something, but I don't know what to do. They're discontent with the things that usually make them content. And it's just
Mhm.
calling. The thing is that I would tell people, the blanket thing is, you're on the right path, and that you're being guided, and that you need to find a way to trust that. Whether you think that you're speaking with the divine or not, you absolutely are, because you are that. You are that. And everything you're putting out is to the divine, really.
Yes.
And so it's about trusting, and that we all have really happy changes. Life actually wants to get better. The world wants to get better, but sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. Or we're coming against everything that's no longer working, and we're thinking we're being punished, but it's like, hey, no, it's dismantling itself, so that, and we're clearing stuff out, so we're making room for this new chapter. We're
Mhm.
all starting a new chapter together.
Yes.
And
Well, thank you so much, Durga. And if people want to find you, how would they do that?
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're
um
welcome.
I'm freetobeauthentic.com.
This will be in the
And
show notes too.
yes, so it's really that easy. They can find the podcast, or book a session, or I have books online, or just whatever they're drawn to. But I'm just here because I love people, and I really want to help people to live in their truth, and to let go of the suffering that we do when we're not living in our truth.
Yes. Well, you do such important work, and I hope to have a session with you tonight. Yeah. Well,
I'll,
thank you. Thank
I'll
you
call.
so much. And you have a great, great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you, Marla.
Okay.
I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Okay.
Alrighty, bye.